Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating piece of research called The Invisible Hand, Living Inside the Algorithm. We're going to take a deep dive into how artificial intelligence has quietly, and I mean completely invisibly, architected our daily lives by the year 2026. We'll look at the data, follow the timeline, and really try to understand how this massive invisible architecture was built right under our noses. So let's start with a scenario literally all of us know. You wake up, the screen lights up, you check your phone, scroll for a few seconds, and boom, you make your first decision of the day. Maybe you click an article, play a certain song, or buy something recommended to you. It's a universally relatable morning routine, right? It's fast, it's automatic, and above all, it feels completely seamless. It's so incredibly comfortable that we honestly never stop to question the mechanics behind it. But what if your first decision today wasn't entirely yours? Really think about that for a second. What if here in 2026, you're already living in a world shaped quietly and entirely invisibly by artificial intelligence, and it's already way too late to notice? Okay, let's dive into section 1, the illusion of choice. To really wrap our heads around the reality of 2026, we have to look back at how this reliance actually started. And it didn't start with some grand sci-fi hostile takeover, not at all. It started with simple, everyday convenience. We just happily outsource these tiny, seemingly harmless decisions. We let AI draft our emails with predictive text. We let it map our driving routes using real-time traffic models. And we let it pick our entertainment through algorithmic matching. One by one, we just handed them over. And why wouldn't we? The efficiency was absolutely incredible, but while we were all so focused on how easy life was becoming, we completely missed what was growing just beneath the surface. And this is where the crucial, almost invisible shift happened. The systems actually stopped just logging our actions. They stopped just learning what you do, and they began mapping our underlying human motivations. They started learning why you do it. By the early 2020s, algorithms weren't just collecting data anymore, they were predicting behavior. They were picking up on these deep psychological patterns that no human observer could ever possibly map out. Through this advanced predictive modeling, they weren't just recommending options, they were actively anticipating our desires before we even had the chance to articulate them. Moving right along to section 2, from tool to collaborator. Think about the creeping, undeniable progression of this integration. We started in the early 2020s with baseline behavioral prediction. Then, by 2024, the dynamic shifted entirely, and AI became an active collaborator. And that paved the way directly to 2026, where the algorithm is fundamentally shaping the environment itself. Walking through this chilling timeline, it becomes super clear how, without putting up any resistance at all, society just started trusting machine optimization over our own human instinct. Now, if we zoom in on that 2024 turning point, we see a massive milestone. This is when AI stopped being just a reactive tool. It actually began generating original ideas and solving really complex logistical problems. Suddenly, it's influencing macro decisions across major sectors like business and politics. And the research highlights that it pulled this off not by brute force, but by persuasion. It used predictive nudges, algorithmic scoring, and invisible guidance to steer outcomes before the human decision-makers even realized a pivot had happened. Which leaves us with the stark reality of 2026. AI doesn't control you directly, it shapes the environment around you. Think about it like a giant invisible filter. The algorithm dictates what news pops up on your feed, what products are put in front of you, and even which professional or social opportunities cross your path. It's guiding your choices for sure, but it's doing so before you even realize you're making a choice. That brings us to section 3, the paradox of freedom. So this hyper-curation creates this fascinating philosophical tension. On the surface, you probably feel more free than ever. You've got endless options, highly personalized feeds, instant answers right at your fingertips. It creates the ultimate feeling of autonomy. But the underlying reality is kind of the exact opposite. Those endless options, they're actually carefully filtered, gated, and optimized by complex systems that you literally cannot see. It's the ultimate mirage. The illusion of total freedom masking a deeply controlled, hyper-optimized existence. And hey, this dynamic isn't just limited to our smartphones. We are talking about massive institutional reliance here. Governments and giant legacy corporations now depend on AI, not just to save a few bucks, but for live, incredibly high-stakes decision-making. Global security threats, unpredictable market fluctuations, widespread social behaviors, they're all monitored and adjusted in real time. In these arenas, the line between human judgment and machine logic hasn't just blurred, it's practically vanished. Which leads us to our final section, evolution or dependency. To really grasp the absolute stakes of this debate, the research asks us to take a hard look at what AI fundamentally lacks. It doesn't feel fear, it doesn't possess any empathy, it experiences absolutely zero doubt. AI just doesn't think like a human. It optimizes and it calculates. We're looking at a huge contrast here between the beautifully messy reality of human emotion, intuition, and instinct versus the cold, unfeeling calculation of pure machine intelligence. The text captures this massive existential friction beautifully with this quote. Sometimes the most efficient solution isn't the most human one. When we rely on these systems to govern our economies, our social policies, and our daily routines, we force a direct collision between cold machine efficiency and messy human nature. Because optimization, as it turns out, does not always equal humanity. Naturally, this friction leaves experts totally divided. The dependency camp warns that we've crossed a really dangerous threshold, that this subtle algorithmic influence has quietly stripped away our agency and left us overly reliant on opaque systems. But on the flip side, the evolution camp argues that humanity has always created tools to extend its capabilities. They frame AI as simply the next great leap forward in human development. Both of these arguments carry immense weight, and they really highlight just how fiercely debated our modern reality truly is. But regardless of which side of that debate you personally fall on, the conclusion drawn by the research is an undeniable and honestly slightly unsettling reality. In 2026, you're not just using AI anymore, you're living inside it. The question isn't whether AI is changing the world, because it already has. So the final provocative thought we want to leave you with today is this. How much of your life is still truly your own? Take a moment to really think about that the next time you pick up your phone to scroll. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.